Well, Derek, I got to say, I think in the big picture, it's a positive that the NFL is committed to Thursday night football, and it's fun that we get some big matchups. And Rams Niners a few weeks ago was great, and the Steelers Bengals game last week was surprisingly good. And it's nice when that happens, but just a real stinker like this, Chargers 37, Vikings 10, it feels comfortable. It feels good. It's like slipping into an old sweatshirt that you haven't put on in a long time. And you're just like, this feels right. Even if we'd prefer a more competitive game, that's how I came out of this feeling.
It feels like how Thursday night is supposed to feel, for better or worse. Like I'm glad that we've gotten some good games recently, and really like this year, we haven't gotten very many bad primetime games in general, not even just the Thursday night ones, but this one was like a true stinker. And even for a little bit in the middle, it kind of got like technically competitive where it was only a 2-touchdown game and then Herbert throws the pick. But like at no point did it feel like the Vikings were a serious football team tonight.
It was so fitting that the Vikings did get that pick. They hit Justin Herbert in the pocket. Josh Metellus picks him off right outside the red zone. And most nights you're like, this is how it happens. Is a chargering on the table? Like, what are we going to see? And it was like the most ridiculous touchdown drive in NFL history where they bungled their way to a field goal after gaining very few yards. They take the field goal off the board because the Chargers have too many men on the field. They go back and get it. And Carson Wentz does finally hit Jordan Addison in the end zone. But even like Jordan Addison himself looked so unenthused by the proceedings. And I was like, yeah, if this were any other game, I might be able to talk myself into an exciting finish. But even the Vikings in this moment seem to know that this doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that happened. And I was just like, I don't like the score here does not matter to me. This is all ridiculous. And like, I think the way that this is where I want to start. The way that you could feel that this was just not a competitive football game whatsoever, the Vikings did not have a successful run in this game until Xavier Scott took one of those fourth quarter with 30-second left carries for like 10 yards. Before that, they had 11 unsuccessful carries on the day. And like we've talked so many times before about like how the Vikings run game needed to be better coming into this year. And at different parts this year, it has been a little bit better despite some of the quarterback play. But this was against the Chargers defense that has been one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. For them to come out and like, for all intents and purposes, have a 0% rushing success rate day, that's just brutal.
They just got completely dominated. And it's worth pointing out, too, my big takeaway, my serious takeaway, because I got several more jokes I want to get off after a game like this, but my serious takeaway is this felt like a matchup between two of the teams that must feel like who's had it worse than us this year, like who's dealt with more. Obviously, we know the Chargers have this laundry list of injuries, and then the Vikings come into this thing. Brian O'Neill can't go. Your right tackle's still hurt. Christian Darrisaw does wind up going, but he lasts 8 snaps, I think. And obviously you've got the injury situation at quarterback. So you go into this game knowing it's going to be Carson Wentz, and Darrisaw got 8 or 9 snaps before you're back to Justin's school, and everything's just falling apart all over again. And and if that wasn't bad enough, I know that the Chargers get a big win, obviously, but they lose Derwin James in this game. They lose Tony Jefferson. Like neither one of these teams can seem to catch a break, and it must feel that much worse for the Vikings that even the Chargers managed to win this game convincingly.
And it's kind of a matter of like, yeah, who does it feel worse for? I would say like, at least, from our perspective going into the year, some sort of season like this for the Vikings was kind of on the table, right? Where like the quarterback stuff just doesn't get figured out. The defense maybe we think is going to be good, but isn't quite playing up to their level, which I do think is the case. Like I think they can still have good games, but against quarterbacks that aren't as phased by the blitz stuff and teams where they can run on them a little bit, you can get nights like this where even the Chargers can score 30 plus on you. And so I think that has all been a factor for the Chargers. I feel bad for them. Like the first 3 weeks of the season, I mean, after that, we were kind of talking about like, hey, man, should we have felt bad of leaving them off the table? And then it feels like since that moment, It's been the Khalil Mack had missed a bunch of time. Joe Alt missed a bunch of time. Now it's Derwin James, and now it's Tony Jefferson. And that's all coming off the back of having just traded Alohi Gilman, where your kind of depth is now being picked away at the safety room. So like this really is a team that I think is very, very good. Like, and it is coached really well. And Justin Herbert is, we can talk about this more in a minute. I don't think any quarterback is playing better this year than Justin Herbert. And that is kind of the only reason that they've been able to hold this stuff together.
Let's talk about it right now. And yeah, let's do the Chargers the favor of focusing on the team that just won by 27 points for a minute. We can get to the Vikings sadness at the end. But, and granted, we're doing this live. I don't know how long Derwin James is going to be out. I don't know what the deal is with Tony Jefferson. We'll have to see. But can I sell you on a picture of optimism with the LA Chargers? Because Justin Herbert, outside of the fact that things almost went south on like the second snap of the game, was amazing. And I was sitting on my couch, like equating it to a near-death experience where like Justin Herbert, you know, him and Ladd McConkey miscommunicate right off the rip. And it looks like it's a pick six to Isaiah Rodgers. McConkey turned the wrong way or Herbert threw it to the wrong shoulder. It's hard to say for sure, but either way, it looks like you're down 7-0 right away. And like, oh my God, is this going to be another just brutal Chargers game? And they pick it up, they wave it off and say, no, Rodgers didn't have control of it, which I don't know if that was the right call, but either way, once given second life, it was like a near-death experience where Justin Herbert was like, I got to start living my life the right way. I gotta change my habits and change my ways. And like from there on out, he was the man. Like he was ripping it to every part of the field. And I thought Ladd McConkey, outside of the early drop, I thought he looked really good.
That was a very funny looking drop, by the way. Like
it looked like he wasn't ready for it, which I don't know how that's possible.
He's like trying to body catch it, and it hits him in the face mask. I've never seen anything like that. It was really funny. But anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, they played great. They played really well.
I don't feel like, because it never felt like the Chargers were going to beat the Colts. I feel like we kind of glossed over Oronde Gadsden's like nuts day on Sunday, just because the game script gets out of whack and you're throwing the ball 55 times. But in a very neutral / favorable script tonight, he goes 5 for 77 and a touchdown. Trey Harris, not a huge night, but he catches a touchdown. Joe Alt is now back and looking like Joe Alt. And I'm just like, okay, we could be up to something here. Like maybe the Chargers season isn't over after all. So it's hard to say that right now until we know what's going on with Derwin James. But Odafe Owe had a sack in this game. Like throughout the game, I was just like, oh man, Justin Herbert's been great all year, and we're getting some contributions from the type of guys that we need to see step up. I was getting a little excited there in the middle of this game.
And I think for them, it's almost like the Niners, where it's like, I don't know how good I feel about this long term because of some of the injuries, but like the fact that they just keep stacking wins to give themselves the cushion is at this stage in the calendar kind of all that matters. And especially for them, I think the difference is that Justin Herbert is playing at that level. Like him, what he was doing in the red zone tonight was insane. Like the throw that he makes to Gadsden for, I think, the first touchdown, the creation ability that you see from him, just like moving around, sliding around pressure, sliding up, sliding out, doing whatever he needs to do to get away from people and still having eyes on the back of the end zone, knowing like, I don't want to immediately become a scrambler here. My best weapon is my 100-mile-an-hour arm, and I'm going to try to use that. And so he finds Trey Harris on a little bit of an extended play. Like he to me has, and this is not saying anything new. He's been in the league for 6 or 7 years now, but he just has such a rare combination of physical tools. Like he is one of the hardest throwers in the league. He's like 6'5", 220 some odd pounds, incredibly hard to tackle. He's quick, he's explosive. And I think we've talked about this a number of times on the show. Since he's been with Jim Harbaugh, you've just felt a little bit of like, it's like he's taken a shot or two. Like he's just a little bit looser playing the quarterback position, whereas I think he used to be a little bit more robotic and buttoned up. And so he really has become the best version of himself. And then again, you mentioned some of the other guys are getting contributions for, like the Gadsden throw is nice because Herbert throws it a million miles an hour, but it's also like slightly behind on Gadsden's like back shoulder, and he's got to kind of go back and turn for it like on the move. Like he goes and does that. And so I'm impressed by their resilience given all the injuries. Like this, you know, they've had some issues because the talent's not great, but like they just find ways to keep doing it, which again is exactly what we said about the Niners as well.
I said all that, and I didn't even mention, shame on me, Kamani Vidal having an amazing night, 100 and whatever it was, 117 rushing yards on the day, just trouncing the Vikings run defense. And we know this. I was watching it. It reminded me a little bit of what we said about Trevor Lawrence after, I guess it must have been the Chiefs game a few weeks ago, where I get you probably don't want Justin Herbert to rush for 60 yards every week, but that is such a valuable part of his game. And to see him do that, and not only just running the ball, but he was extending plays with his feet. I loved that goofy pressure he got out of where Levi Drake Rodriguez got after him up the A gap, and he just sort of bought time until Bradley Bozeman could circle back around and eliminate the rush. And then he ripped a dart over the middle of the field. I was like, yeah, this guy's athleticism obviously is off the charts, but it was especially on display in a game like this.
Yeah, he had that one. And then to me, like, yeah, him using his legs has been huge, which again is like since Jim Harbaugh has been there, I think been a little bit more part of his game. The one where he took off straight down the middle and it felt like the Red Sea had parted a little bit for him. Like when he sees that and decides to just go and like hit the gas, like he's such a rare mover because he's explosive, but he also has such long strides. He's incredible to watch in that way. So he like, I truthfully think that he is, if we were drafting quarterbacks, I would still take the power three because they're just the longevity of how long they've showed it with Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I think there's just like a little bit more proof of concept there in some ways. If I'm asked who has played the best football for the first 8 weeks of the season and who do I think is doing the most for their football team, I think it's probably Justin Herbert. And like his numbers don't look as good as maybe Mahomes or a couple other guys, but like given the offensive line he's been playing behind, what he is putting up has been pretty incredible.
I mean, Herbert, I think you got to throw Dak Prescott in there.
Yep. Another one.
And Baker Mayfield as well. Obviously, he had a down night in Detroit, but all three guys that have really dealt with some very tough blows from an injury perspective too, and kept on ticking. I think I'd be willing to say, though, that accounting for injuries and accounting for the guys that aren't there, what Herbert has been overcoming is right up there with anybody. I mean, what Baker had to get over in the early going until Tristan Wirfs is worth considering. But yeah, I mean, just the problems on the offensive line, the amount of pressure that's been generated against Herbert, the lack of like a dynamic receiving option. I mean, we all love Ladd McConkey, but he got off to a slow start this season. It's very encouraging to see him rounding back into looking like the guy we remember from last year. To be here at 5-3 with all of that is pretty incredible. And I know you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself in the NFL, but if we're looking at the schedule coming up, it's Tennessee next, it's Pittsburgh, it's Jacksonville, it's Vegas before you get a pretty hard stretch at the end of the year. Like, big opportunity here to, like you just said, like even if we have problems with the product, as if we're talking about like contenders, you got some real opportunity to stack some wins here now that they're a healthier team than they looked like over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Exactly. Like they've built themselves up enough of a cushion that if they basically just go like 500 from here, which given their schedule, they might be able to do better than that anyway, given how Justin Herbert is playing, like that probably that should be able to get you into the wild card, or at least give you, a week 18 game where you get to give yourself in a win and in situation. The last thing too, I want to say, like in terms of trying to build up a little bit of hope for how this Chargers thing is going. I know they lost a couple of other guys on defense, namely the safeties in this game. Having Khalil Mack back. And again, yeah. I know it was against some of these tackles that are not the greatest, but I just like, you felt him from the moment the game started. And he's still a very, very, very good player. And like, to me, even when they have all their guys healthy, he is, to me, their most important player because of what he can do in run defense. And I think he's their most powerful pass rusher. Like, just getting him back in the fold and hopefully healthy for the rest of the year, that is like just A+ stuff for them.
Peaks and valleys for this Chargers team. They opened the year looking like one of the most exciting teams in the league. It really fell off largely because of injury. Maybe we're climbing another hill here in Chargers land. I want to hit on the other side of this. I don't know. I'm going to take this with a grain of salt considering what the Chargers were going against too. Like this was brutal on the Minnesota Vikings side of things. And can I share my dipshit take with you?
I would love it. Hit me with it.
Normally, I think this is asinine. Like think about the drop off from starter to backup, and now remember that applies from backup to third string quarterback, right? Like 99% of the time, it's asinine to call for the third string quarterback, and you don't see teams do it because they're not capable. You're going to lose the confidence of the team. Like you're going to upset the locker room. Guys are going to be pissed. Like you're waving the white flag. You're not even giving us a chance. This is the 1% of the time where the Vikings had every reason to try to throw Max Brosmer into this game. Like for starters, the word on the street is that JJ McCarthy's going to try to be back for Detroit. So you're already feeling good about his availability after this long weekend. Carson Wentz was hurt. Like I felt bad after a while watching the way he was grimacing and clutching his shoulder and just generally looking like he was having a terrible time. And on top of that, he probably, at least somewhat because of the injury, was playing poorly, man. Like he's hurt. You don't have to worry about chemistry for the long term because the starter's coming back and he's playing like shit. And like the minute he airmailed that ball to Justin Jefferson that got picked off, what are we doing? And if I'm being honest, I think you could have made the switch at halftime where it's like, yeah, normally this is a bad idea. Right here, right now, with the game already well out of hand, what did you really have to lose? And why did you subject us to 60 more minutes of Carson Wentz than we needed to see?
Yeah, especially because it's an injury thing, right? Like if Carson Wentz was just having a bad game, it's like, well, it's Carson Wentz in 2025 and he's your backup. Like he's going to have bad football games, especially against the Chargers pass defense that I think is still pretty good. But yeah, the fact that he comes out with like a full like sleeve, like whole contraption on his left arm to make sure that he doesn't hurt it any further. And then you still see like once a drive, he was getting up from a hit, a sack, whatever, very clearly not wanting to go take the next snap and play football anymore. And so like that just feels like at a certain point you just got to pull him to save him from himself, but also like again, Max Brosmer probably isn't good, but is he really worse than like half-armed Carson Wentz? Probably not at that stage in the game.
Even if he was, like what are you going to lose? Like the Vikings had the most ridiculous touchdown drive of the year, and I use drive in air quotes because they gained like one first down and started on the opponent's 26. Like you were not playing viable football in the second half of this game. The coaching staff like had to talk Justin Jefferson down at halftime. Like he looked so pissed coming off the field in the first half. Like I said earlier, Jordan Addison didn't look excited about catching a touchdown. Most of the time, this isn't a conversation worth having. I think maybe this was the one time where even if it doesn't go well, you can maybe try to rescue the vibes with like a healthy young guy who doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean, like if Max Brosmer makes one cool throw, I think people would have got a little bit more jazzed than like whatever Carson Wentz was going to do for the second half of that game. So I'm 100% with you on that one.
It doesn't get any easier for the Vikings. They're at Detroit next week. Hopefully JJ McCarthy will be part of that. Then it is the Ravens. Then it is the Bears. Then it is the Packers. Then it is the Seahawks. My gosh, like I could just keep going. They're playing playoff caliber competition for most of the rest of the season. And like I said, it sounds like JJ McCarthy's on his way back. We don't really know what that means yet. So I don't know what to do with the Vikings. Before we get out of here, do you have anything for me?
That to me is just going to be like one, it's getting JJ McCarthy back on the field is good in the sense that like they need to get him reps and get him to play, but also like JJ McCarthy was not good in the 2 games we saw him. So I don't even know if that, given their schedule, is going to fix their season at this point. Like this just feels like they just hope that he can stack together a couple of good performances and moments for the next handful of the season. Again, especially with the way the defense is playing. Like I think the formula was that they needed to be like a top 6 unit, and they're like a top half-ish unit right now. It's not quite what they were looking for, I think.
Yeah, they haven't been awful, but they haven't been like some kind of fire-breathing unit. I do wonder how much of that is like mental when
a give a shit factor.
When you can't count on your offense to pick up their end of the bargain. I know that's not how it's supposed to be, but that's just human nature. But we'll see. I mean, I'm at the point. I know they're only 3-4. Like technically, the whole season's out there in front of them mathematically. But I'm at the point now where I'm just like, get JJ in there and find out if you need to do something at the quarterback position in 2026. And if that sounds harsh, I'm sorry, but that's where we are based on what we've seen from the quarterback position for this team so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not the most thrilling Thursday night game, but it doesn't matter. We're here after all of them. We'll be here next week as well. I think if you're listening to this, you don't have too long to wait until our week 8 preview comes out. That's on Friday. Please make sure you go check that out. Loaded conversation. We talked Cowboys Broncos. We talked Aaron Rodgers going against the Green Bay Packers. Highlighted. I mean, we hit on it all. You know how we do it in the preview shows. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you come find us on Sunday as we react to all the action in week 8 and all season long. As always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all soon.